Hello, sir.
Hello, Chazi. How are you
There's
doing?
I think there's another stream going on right now in the Grail country. So all the millions of viewers we have, it's gonna have to be split.
Are you gonna have to be divided? Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
We'll get five. We'll get 500,000.
Exactly. Once
You're muted. Sorry.
I just my wife wrote to me something over here. I just want to confirm something. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Um, yeah. So this conversation that Luke was streaming about hell. Um, then turned into I don't. You might not be aware of this, but there's this person on the in this little corner named Tigrog, and he is an atheist, and so there's these Sam Harris conversations going on, basically uh, like most people here are either are religious, I guess. So there's
Mhm.
like this tension being built, and uh, I don't know. I had to jump on at some point. I was like, there was like a whole this conversation, religion versus science,
Mhm.
and my attitude was it's always religion and science. It's not versus science. And I don't know why we have to decide to be like they have to be opposed to each other. Like it's just,
Right.
um, and whatever. We don't have to get too deep into that. But
It's interesting. It's kind of um like I'm thinking of like when did that happen before where there was like another person that comes in that's like a new entity into the space, whether it's an atheist or whatever um other perspective, and it feels like maybe it's something, maybe it's like a test that needs to happen every once in a while, and we see how we can like how do we respond to that person, how do we integrate that person, and then we know if we're improving or not. So
so totally that's sort of that's why I'm interested with that dynamic. I want to see
mhm.
like are people like siloed in their own mindset and their own echo chambers where they can't sort of deal with change.
Yeah.
Uh, Secondly, it also shows like what the limit is. You could be like on one end, like, listen, Jews, they don't believe in
Mhm.
Jesus, right? So that's a problem. But on the other hand, like at the very least, he believes in God.
Right.
But then like this other guy comes in, he's like nothing. Having said that, uh, you know, if he's in this little corner, he's searching for something and he's
Hmm.
looking for something, and maybe it like and I think he sees that this isn't like your classic Christian circles, or let's say religious circles. So there's like a lot of debate, there's a lot of diversity, and I think in a certain sense, uh, he's slowly learning that, uh, like. Like he asked me, I jumped on. He's like, "Wait, but do you think that like the Christians are like idol worshippers?" So I said, like, well, in theory, some can be, some are not. There's like loopholes in my religion that I could say none of them are,
Hmm.
but like there are obviously differences. So he was sort of happy to see that because he's like, okay, so there's like diverse thought over here. This isn't like the church I grew up in, and the attitude is like, yeah. So it's less about giving him an answer per se. It's more about you're in a space, and as long as people are being kind, loving, and understanding, you'll explore. It could be that you'll
Hmm.
decide to stay an atheist. It could be that you'll start seeing that, like, there are more concepts I could understand, more ideas I could take on. And I was just mentioning to him that the Bible is not a science book,
Hmm.
and B, and it doesn't claim to be one. B, it's speaking in the language of men, so it's in a specific context. While it's eternal, it requires from us to learn more, understand more, be more conscious, and then we could see more in this Torah. And I gave this example of God. God reveals Himself to Abraham under the name of El Shaddai, but then later on to Moses, he reveals himself in the Tetragrammaton. And it doesn't mean God changed. It just means that the level of comprehension of the believer grew or expanded. So God could reveal more of himself in a certain sense. And that's true even in science. So like to me, when we see the radioactive, I'm blanking on the word, but basically we see the waves left from the Big Bang, right? So we could go back 13.8 million years and see like we still see this radiation. So like, that to me doesn't belittle God. That just expands him. Great. Like Abraham had no way of knowing that. And Ezekiel was like, clawing at that with like discussing the chariot. And now we could be like, no, it means this, it means that. And it doesn't mean like, oh, now we understand God. It's just another level of interpretation, of understanding, where we could now even express and see more of his glory. So I don't see it as separate. Rather, it's, as Rabbi Sachs says, the great partnership. Didn't you guys actually read that book in your book club?
We did, yeah.
So this whole subject is you got this all covered already.
Explored it. We've thoroughly explored it. It's all within us already.
It's all within us. Okay, Beseder. How was your week?
It was good. The week
successful,
was good.
productive,
successful and productive and relaxing. Yeah,
and relaxing. That's always good. Always good.
Yeah, I spoke to my mom is gonna come here. So that will be nice. It will be the first time that she comes to Austin since we moved here. And it will be nice.
You're on the live stream. No. It's nice that she's gonna come there. Do you have like a whole schedule set for her?
We have a arrival date.
Okay.
And beyond that, no, we don't have anything else.
We'll play by ear.
We're gonna do stuff. There are things that we know that we want to do, but we're just gonna hang out together.
It's just good to be with mom. So
yeah, I mean, nice to have her here.
I'm very happy to hear that, and I hope you guys have a very, very nice time together.
Thank you.
Okay.
How was your Shabbat? Do you have any?
My Shabbat was very nice. My Shabbat was very nice. I was with my brother, my rabbi lawyer brother, who I'm going to be moving next to. So most of his kids were out of the house, so it was more quiet, which has its pros and cons. And I went to visit my sister, who lives next to my brother right now. So it was nice, family oriented Shabbat, which is very nice. Different synagogue. The synagogue is less used to. It's a little more ultra orthodox. I got a little more eyebrows with my book in synagogue this week. With like this week, I'm reading Judaism in Islam. So they're like, what is this? Good. So
it requires a little more explanation, more context.
Exactly. So that was interesting. There was a when I did my little portion, my weekly portion thing, I was going to talk about something else actually, but then I felt like it was a little too controversial. I was going to talk about how Rabbi Cook sees the outer skins of the tabernacle, which are made out of tachash, which we don't know what a tachash is. One of the theories is that it's a narwhal, like this whale with like a long horn, which is like a bone. And it has like leopard skin. Either way, Rav Cook talks about how we don't know. It's not defined. Well, I'll take a step back. He talks about how the outer skins are there to symbolize the sort of the limits, the outer limits of our religion, which are expressed through Islam and Christianity in a certain sense. And that's like, if you go all the way in, then you're at the Holy of Holies. But as you move out, there's quote unquote more watered down versions, so to speak, or more worldly or universal. I don't have to say watered down, but universal expressions of the religion. And he also mentioned, Rabbi Cook alludes to this by stressing the division between the rabbis whether or not the tachash is considered an animal or like a wild animal or a behemah, which is like a domesticated animal.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a wild animal, then we want nothing to do with it. It's out of control and it has nothing to do with it. We can't interact with it. However, if it's a domesticated animal, and no one should take offense to the term animal, if it's the domesticated animal, then that's something that we are interested in cultivating a relationship with, working with as well. And he says like that's sort of, we don't know yet. And like, the Messiah will let us know, of course. And that's also alluding to the Rambam talking about, Christianity and Islam being path makers for the Messiah. So here too, you could see like a little of that, but I felt like I don't need that kind of heat on me right before Shabbat. So we went on.
Yeah. You should have the parasha videos are more of like the kind of like straight interpretation, and then you might have a more like subscribers only controversial content.
When you go to the subscriber only, I start with everything I said up until now was a lie. This is the truth, right? So yeah, I mean, I try to keep them. I try to give like some. Of course, through Rav Shirky's Divrei Torah, some novel ideas, but like, there's a limit of how much I want to be poking the bear, saying like, the outer skin, path makers, not the real deal. Like, they get it. They know where I'm at. All right. So, so anyways, that was my Shabbat, which was very, very nice. The rabbi in the synagogue happens to be like a Chassid, who started very quickly talking about, let's say, the 10 spheres. And I was like, okay, this is not a conversation for like a Friday night to don't like, it was just like a pointless thing that he was saying. It was like very nice for the one person who understood him. And I guess not like, someone like you who studies Tanya, I'm sure you'll be able to comprehend.
I would have been there. It would have been like,
right.
Shallow waters for me. I would just like wade in it very comfortably. Not really, but yeah. Is this the synagogue in your near your new?
No, that's not working yet. Right now, that's like for the small group that's living there in that neighborhood. It's like a small little caravan.
Okay.
It has yet to. They're going to wait for more donors. We'll build a building.
Yeah.
My in-laws have this old Torah scroll that we'll fix up, but we'll donate it to the synagogue over there.
Wow, that's nice.
Only if they make me the rabbi, though.
Okay.
Donate it over there. So hopefully that will be beneficial. Okay, let's get cracking. Where are we? We're on 14.
14 is the.
No, we did this last week, right? Yeah, we were talking about. We had again. We started from 10 to 7 to 4. We were doing all these breakdowns of talking about like essence of the world, society. Now we were getting closer in towards the types of those who attend the study hall. We were talking about the value of just going, even if you're not necessarily learning anything, but it's wanting to be to participate. We were talking about how the ultimately the pious one, the Chassid, who goes, who doesn't have to go, who goes regardless to show an example, to energize and be a beacon of light to the other people. And by doing so, this is giving a lot of inspiration to everyone. He also knows that he's not necessarily losing by going over there, but he himself is benefiting from this. We also spoke about how he doesn't, unlike the other ones over here, he doesn't get a reward because his participation in it is the reward. Knowing his place and knowing that his place is to be teaching and being used as an example is itself the reward. We spoke about how the wicked one in the end, ultimately, even though in theory he goes, even if he like ends up being there one Tuesday afternoon, we could argue, why does he not get credit? Because he still went there. And we were saying also earlier, everyone has to go according to the commandment. So why is he not going? And we give an example from the Pesach Haggadah, from the Passover Haggadah that we read, where the wicked son is called wicked is because he excludes himself from the community, right? He says, why are you guys, what are these strange laws that you guys have? And it's like, what do you guys have, not me? And the answer is like, if he was during the redemption, during the Exodus, he would not have been redeemed because he excluded himself from the community. Here too, this guy is showing real no interest in participating. He's not going there even just to get the brownie points, so to speak. This is all strange to him, and he doesn't want to be there, so we could call him the wicked one.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing that stuck with me as well is that we spoke about the idea about there is the one that goes to the study hall, but he doesn't study there, meaning he doesn't do well when he studies with other people. There's a lot of commotion, and then there's the person that can't study alone, so he goes that studies by himself. And we said that the chacham, the wise, the chassid, is the one that can integrate both of those modalities.
Yes,
he can study by his own, and he does it very well. But also, when he gets going into the study hall and it incorporates other people, he can also be in that kind of conversation and incorporating other people and dealing with the commotion, other perspectives, and still learning.
Right. So I mean, this is in a certain sense echoing, as many of the Mishnayot here do, something we said previously about the ones who give charity, and we said how the chassid, the pious one, knows how to give from himself, and we said, well, but what if he gives too much? Right? He's too open. The chassid, the true sensei, he knows how to maintain his inner inner wealth, so to speak, whether it's theological, intellectual, spiritual, while still sharing with the other ones and not completely lose himself by doing that. Right. And that's why this one manages to go into the study hall, and it could be he just changes his mode. I'm in teacher mode. What the student needs me to do is be a student to him. What this rabbi needs me to do is to be a teacher to him. And he is a chameleon in that sense, and he knows how to knows how to balance himself in that regard.
Oh.
Okay, so we move on to what now? Okay, number 15, Tet Vav. Okay, I think this is, can you go to Tet Zayin? I think this is the last one of the numbers. Yes, okay, scroll back up. ארבע מידות ביושבים לפני חכמים, ספוג ומשפך, משמרת ונפה. ספוג שהוא סופג את הכל, ומשפך שמכניס בזו ומוציא בזו, משמרת שמוציא את היין וקולט את השמרים, ונפה שמוציא את הקמח וקולטת את הסולת. So there are 4 types among those who sit before the sages: the sponge, the funnel, the strainer, and the sieve. The sponge absorbs all. The funnel takes in at one end and lets out in the other. The strainer rejects the wine and retains the sediment. The sieve rejects the coarse flour and retains the fine flour, the solet. All right. So here again, we're talking about like these 4. If earlier we were talking about did I put a link, by the way? Yeah, I did put a link. Okay. Yeah. If earlier we were talking about the 4 qualities of the people that are in the Beit Midrash, or these students, and well, earlier we spoke about the ones who ones that walk to go learn, and then we spoke about the ones that go to the Beit Midrash, that are in the study hall. So this is about like these young people that are in the beginning of their journey. However, here we're talking about someone else. We're talking about someone that is sitting in front of the sage in this case, right? And it's also, he's not just sitting in the study hall and he's not walking to the study hall. He's at the study hall, he's sitting down, and he's in front of the sage as well, which reminds us of Shifti bebet Hashem kol yemei chayai, right? I'll dwell in the house of the Lord, of the house of God all my life. And dwelling, sitting this is showing consistency.
Right. This is also, we cover this in Yeshev b'moshav litzim, like sits amongst.
But that's the reverse. That's in the negative,
reverse,
right? Like,
meaning it's like, it's not just somebody that jokes around every once in a while. It's like, you can make it into a positive habit, or you can be a funny person, a comedian in a good way. But if you sit in it, if that's your whole identity is just about jest and joking around, then that becomes detrimental.
Right. So the idea of yeshiva, of sitting, which is not like, it's not a coincidence that we call the place of study Torah a yeshiva, That's what it's called, like the seating place. And
Right.
it's emphasizing that the Torah is really acquired only through like continuous, uninterrupted study. So there is the people that are going, and there's people that are sort of listening, but then there's the people that sit and they understand what is actually required. And of course, if I'm continuously and uninterruptedly sitting in a place where there's just bums cracking jokes all the time, clearly that's going to also that is going to affect, my state of mind, my attitude towards things. So one has to be careful when committing to sit. Having said that, we obviously want the ideal, and what we're stressing over here are the people that are sitting in front of the sages, right? So this isn't necessarily someone who is a young student, rather the people that are really want to make this their lifestyle and fully want to commit.
Right.
Now we're giving over here these 4 different types of vessels that are used for like absorption and releasing ultimately, right? So we have the sponge, the funnel, and the strainer, and the sieve. I think the difference between a strainer and a sieve is just the sort of the types of holes between them, because I think a sieve is actually a type of strainer. But I could be wrong. But I'm not actually wrong, because it's the bread and it's the grapes. One has the smaller holes and one has the bigger holes.
Well, yeah, and I think it's fun. What it does, what sticks with what it collects is the difference, at least in this analogy.
No, vadai. I'm just specifically. I like while the sponge and the funnel are 2 different things. I think like a sieve is just a type of a strainer, but just a different type of strainer. Either way, so this is like they're both obviously they're representing over here like the quality of absorption, and this is sort of has to do with the nature of our memory. Again, this is a little similar to what we were talking about earlier. We had the student that it goes in one ear, it comes out the other, right? So we were talking about, so this is in a certain way echoing some of these ideas. And here too, we're not talking about a student being evil or good or lazy or not. Rather, we're talking about the quality of like the student's understanding.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone is welcomed in the house of study. And the assumption is these are all good dudes. Right. So we want them all here. They're taking it seriously. But now we have to talk about these 4 individuals, what their experience is like, so to speak.
Right.
So we had the sponge, the the sponge that it absorbs everything. So this is, obviously like a student that he's regularly studying with, the sages, the rabbis over there, and he's absorbing everything they're doing. However, he's absorbing everything, right? So the idea about hakol, everything, is showing a lack of discernment between like the valuable stuff and the worthless things that he's taking on. And this, of course, what we spoke about, chachamim, hizaru b'divrachem, right? Sages, be careful with the words you use, not only because it could be confusing, but because there's sponges in front of you, right? There's people sitting in front of you, and they're just collecting in this information. And while there could be some that don't listen, the wicked one, but let's say you have a good student who's a good dude, but he's a sponge, and he's just taking everything in right now, right? So if I'm fully absorbing everything, I could be acquiring knowledge, which has like we said, I can't distinguish between what's true and false. I don't know what the key issue is, what we're talking about over here. And I'm taking the broader lesson, and not like I'm not selectively learning what's important over here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this happens with an actual sponge. Like if I'm in a kitchen and I need to fix a spill or like clean a spill, and maybe it's oily, or it has like with something in it, like smells a little bit. If I use the sponge to do that, I won't immediately also clean the dishes with it, because it absorbs the oil, it absorbs the smell, and then the whole thing smells.
So I guess using that analogy, if you wanted to avoid that, what would you do then?
Well, I would have to get rid of the smell. I would have to get rid of the oil. I just want the water and the soap.
How would you not absorb the oil?
How would I not absorb the oil with the sponge? Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm thinking through this, but I don't know if a sponge could do that. I mean, if it absorbs it, I would need to clean it completely. I would have to remove.
Right, but you're right. That would be like after the fact, right? Like I had some wrong information. I now corrected my ways. I don't have the information, but the idea would be like, how do I avoid, right? We're trying to give advice to the student right now. It's a sponge boy. How do I avoid just absorbing? So I would say the answer with that to be, using this analogy, what sink are you cleaning? Don't clean oily sinks. And here would be, if I'm sitting with the rabbi, right? I need to discern, am I listening to Rabbi Oil, or am I listening to Rabbi where it's a lot more water-based learning, right? So
Right. I
even if
mean,
you're saying that's not so relevant, I still know that my sponge is not absorbing that. Now, of course, you have to still be able to discern between the relevant rabbi and the not relevant rabbi. However, before you get into sponge mode, right, where I'm just sitting down, I'm just accepting, I could ask around, I could talk to people, I could see, and the idea would be with I should be focusing on who I'm absorbing this from. Ideally, if I locate the right guy, there's less chance of me of absorbing nonsense.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to keep going on this, I mean, what I actually do is that
I don't clean any dishes.
I don't clean any dishes. I'm waiting for the apocalypse.
Right.
What I do, I have a sponge. I have the sponge that I use for the dishes, and I have another sponge. I take off the. This is not an innovative, but I take off one of the corners, and I know this is the sponge for the really ugly stuff.
Right.
I don't clean the counter with it. I clean the sink itself, and yeah. So, and I have to have at least two separate sponges. But I don't know how that works with the brain. But yeah.
No, so I'm saying, let's say with regards to learning, playing off this idea,
Yeah.
you could say that for the real oily stuff, right? Maybe that's a shorter class. Maybe I give myself more room. Maybe I take more notes in that class. I could prepare it differently for that class.
Right.
Right. So knowing my weakness, I could prepare accordingly.
Right. I mean, let's see. I don't know if this works for this, but it kind of reminds me a little bit about, like, if I'm studying Tanya, and we kind of spoke of it a little bit last time when you said you watched how we study Tanya. But when I study Tanya with Jacob, and sometimes we go into the real deep stuff, and I actually we both of us, we don't necessarily dwell on the really, really Kabbalah, like, deep stuff too long. We just read through it, we understand what we can understand, and then we move past it. And I think there is some sense of, like, we just, at least for myself, speak for myself, I don't feel like I'm equipped at this moment to really absorb this entire level, right? It's like the Pardes, right? I feel like I don't want to go too deep at the moment. I just prefer to get all the initial stuff, and then I'll get into, like, hopefully, one day I will be able to absorb the really hard stuff and actually integrate it in a useful way.
I think that's a very good example. And at this point, you just do like a cursory overview,
right.
Or you just do one wipe over. Right? So you don't need to go necessarily deeper at that stage. And I think that totally makes sense. I mean, I don't think this is what he meant, but it's still relevant. When Rabbi Akiva warns his posse that's about to go into the Pardes, right? He tells them, be careful, don't say water. And the attitude is potentially some of that water is oil, right? Don't assume that you're just cleaning water right now, because you might be hitting some spots where it's a little more grayer. You need to be more prepared for those kind of stuff, because as we see, Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, and Acher, obviously their sponges were not grade A. Or at least two of them wasn't. You could say Acher's was a grade A, just wasn't interested in the party afterwards. All right. And then we have the mashpech, right? We have the funnel.
Small thing about the sponge.
Sure. From your magical book?
Well, from the magic book.
Okay.
Midrash Shmuel also says there's a negative sense here with the sponge. First of all, the positive says that it absorbs things quickly, right? But in the negative sense, it does not share its wisdom with others unless it is squeezed.
Oh, I like that. 1 second.
Right. So yeah, with a sponge, if you want to release
Who said
water,
that?
Midrash Shmuel. You want to release the water, if you want to give away the knowledge, it's reluctant. It won't do that without you squeezing it. So it absorbs, and it's a very proud, boastful sponge.
I got you. And it won't share its knowledge. Okay, I like that. Did they mention anything else?
Not at the moment. Not here. Yeah, there's a few more, but for each one they have a negative and a positive, kind of short ones. So
I got you. Okay. So so the funnel, generally speaking, talks about, I'm wondering what it's mentioning in your book. The funnel talks about someone that is like absorbs everything but retains nothing, right? It comes in, it goes out, and it's very similar to like one ear out the other. However, I would argue that a funnel has like a large top and a small bottom, right? So it's actually absorbing more than it's releasing. I would think. I'm not necessarily sure. Like, interested what they say by you, but generally speaking, it's the interpretation that is coming throughout one ear and it leaves the other, right? So their issue obviously is like a memory issue, right? He's not managing to retain the things that he's learning, and the I guess you would say the positive is he's retaining nothing. We spoke about this also when writing on like a piece of paper or writing on a paper that was written once before. Now we said like writing on a paper that was used before, I could sort of see where I was writing so I could avoid the mistakes. Right. And I mean, sorry, when I'm writing, it's difficult for me to write because I already have indented the paper, so it's hard for me to write clearly. Yep. So here the funnel is giving me a fresh start every time, right? So while I didn't absorb the positive, I also didn't absorb the negative, right? So in that sense, my mind wasn't corrupted, so to speak. But obviously, someone like this, aside from, let's say, memorization tricks or things like that, this is someone that is it's really not a good position to be in, because you need to sort of ask for you have to build yourself, aside from asking God to assist you. The idea is like, this is someone that needs to have a system. He needs to have his notes. He needs to be writing this down. He might need to have someone with him that's helping him. But the attitude is that this person, we're not calling you a bad dude, right? You're still welcome to sit in a study hall, and you're sitting down. Like, we're interested in this.
Right. This is the positive here that it talks about today.
The idea would be that if you want to participate, though, it requires you to be more proactive. If one of them needs to be careful what he's discerning, this guy needs to be able to, at the very least, be able to maintain the information. I would say like discernment is, let's say, phase 2 of his issue. First is, can you retain the information at all?
Yeah. So here it's from the Rebbe that he talks about. This is about the forgetful student, right? But the positives here is to remind him that he's sitting down and he's listening. And yes, he's forgetting, but if he's going to keep studying, eventually he will succeed. But it also mentions if he keeps studying and reviewing, he will ultimately succeed. So it didn't have to mention reviewing. So there's something about the review. Like you have to be proactive, like you said.
I guess what we could say is that because, the funnel is larger on top and smaller on the output, you could say that he is always losing, but he's losing less than he's gaining. And as long as he keeps at it, eventually he's going to retain enough, so to speak. Yeah. Right. Because out of 10 that come in, he only retains 1. So it'll take him 10 times to study it until he retains them all.
Yeah. There's also an interesting, now this makes me think about, when you look into productivity, like productivity systems and stuff like that. And I've looked at a share of those in kind of like the technical world. One of the visual aids that they show you is that they show, like, if you're somebody that's studying, especially online, or you're taking notes, right? You're working and you have meetings with people and you have notes here, notes there, and and you're studying, you have book notes everywhere. So this visual aids that they will give you is a funnel, right? Of like, you have all these inputs that you're getting and they get funneled. The question is, where are they getting funneled? So what I'm trying to say is that this student, he knows that he gets information, he gets all these inputs, but they don't go anywhere. So you can think about it like a system of like, if you are able at some point to direct the funnel in the right ways,
but wouldn't that be discernment? That's like guy number 1.
What, your guy number 1 or guide?
I'm saying the first student we spoke about over here, he has a problem discerning, right? Guy number 2, like you're saying, like, okay, it all comes in the funnel. Then you have to you have to direct it to the right place. Directing it is already means you understand the information you have and you know where it needs to go. I'm saying this guy can't discern.
Right. Oh yeah, I can see what you're saying. So in part of taking the inputs, you being able to direct it in the right direction means that you understand where it needs to go.
I mean, that would be like signal and noise, right? He's only getting noise. Obviously, there's signal in there, but he can't discern what the signal is.
Mhm.
And what we're saying is that, like, keep on studying. At some point, you're going to recognize, you'll start hearing the signal.
Right, and then you will be able to. That's a good point. Yeah, and then you'll be able to direct it. Right.
Correct.
Cool.
All right. משמרת שמוציאה את היין וקולטת את השמרים. What is that in English, though? That the strainer rejects the wait, why is this so
Rejects
small?
the wine.
Yeah, rejects the wine and retains the sediment, right? So here, obviously, there's like the wine has its natural like yeast during. I mean, I'm not like a wine connoisseur, but that's what they say, right? So it's the yeast. It's like enhancing the smell, the aroma of the wine, but obviously it's not. You can't eat it, right? It's not something that you're going to actually start eating, and we're moving it by filtering through it over here. So this is someone that his mind is like a strainer, so there is discernment, but it's not calibrated, right? So he only is retaining the trivial details that have like a good smell to it, okay? But like, so he's picking up the anecdotes, he's picking up the jokes, the cool stories, but he's not letting the critical information that's escaping him in a certain sense, right? So what do you remember from this class? Oh, it was amazing. He gave this example of what's it called. Okay, how is that related? I don't know. And like you tell the story, which sounds cool, and like that's when he was talking, you were like, oh man, that's like the coolest story. But then you're like, whoa, you're missing the point, though. You understand how he's?
Yeah. So let me ask you a provocative question.
Yeah, God exists.
Where would you put the people that are interested in Torah, in the history, in the stories? They're interested to learn about Yosef and his brothers, and about Exodus, and about the forefathers, the four mothers. But they're just interested in the history. They don't get any. They don't. It's not about. It's about the narrative itself, but it's not anything. It's not. They don't. They don't expect.
Why is that provocative, though? I mean, like in what setting are you asking me the question?
So let me make it like. So if you are like, so I know people that are more chiloni, more secular Israelis.
Are they yeshiva goers, though?
No, they're chilonim. They're not yeshiva goers.
So I'm saying that they have a completely different level of expectation. Then here, our expectation we're talking about to the guy that's sitting in the front row in class. You're telling me, like, what about someone that's like walking around the street that's interested to know about the patriarchs? Knock yourself out. You don't have to go deeper than that. Enjoy, read, have a good time. And more than that, there you would be an example of metoch shelo lishma ba lishma, right? Even like, even though he's doing it, fake it till you make it, right? So he doesn't think he's faking it. He's just asking it at like sort of a basic level. As he asks more, and assuming that the people answering him are not being jerks about it, I would say sort of that's like the example I gave with like the T-Grog guy. That's I said like on this live chat right now, this atheist. And the attitude is, as long as he's being genuine, right? I don't need him to be like, oh, but why don't you understand exactly what this church father or this sage said? It's more about like, we're having a conversation. Some of it's being retained, some of it's not being retained, but you're interested in it and you want to be involved. Then you have to sort of meet people where they are. And we mentioned earlier about l'chanoch et hanar lefi darko, right? Teach the student the way he needs to be educated. So, so here too, it could be that there's a point during the education where you understand that he's going to just be picking up the stories. A good educator then will recognize that these stories is how he retains his information more. Then my job is to put the more relevant information in the story form, right? And not, so like that would be, the educator needs to do this in order to accommodate this person in a sense, until he could do so himself, and then you could continue doing what you're doing, right? We're not saying, well, we spoke about this already before, about my invention that I'm fully patented for about teaching people with AI. So I don't think it's like, as far as it being provocative, the Chiloni coming in is going to be a mistake. It's
in a different level, like you said.
Right. Like, so I could go to a Chiloni person, and when we say Chiloni, we mean some secular, and I could come and tell him, you know what's very interesting about our Bible? That when they spoke about the skins of the Tachash and the tabernacle, really it was speaking about Christianity and Islam. Now, this person would be like, oh, wow, that's so interesting, and things like that. Now, we didn't talk about the tabernacle. We didn't talk about how it was built. We didn't talk about the verses. Nothing. I just gave him an idea that's an interesting idea, and that's a little seed that he could play around with. Is there much more to discuss? Are there more valuable things than me saying that? Yes. But that doesn't mean he can't appreciate and gain things from that. Here, again, we're talking about the person that he was sitting in the front row, and then later after class, he's going around talking to people. They're all talking about quantum physics, and he's like, but what color was Schrodinger's cat? And they're like, but the cat doesn't matter. It could have been a horse. You know, like, that's not the point. So for that person, obviously that's a problem.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, we just did the wine, right? So right, so obviously, like, just again with the kind of wine we're talking about, this is right, this is the guy that needs to find the proper teacher. ונפה שמוציאה את הקמח וקולטת את הסולת. And the sieve that rejects the coarse flour and retains the fine flour. So this, as I think it's pretty clear, we're talking about the proper student over here, right? So there's a sense over here that he is taking, we're getting rid of, we're really focusing on the quality, right? So we got rid of a lot of stuff. We got rid of like the bulk of the flour, which would be like, oh, you're getting rid of so much of the quote unquote, you know, there's a baby in the bathwater. You're getting rid of a lot of the bathwater, but in this sense, you very much maintain the baby, right? And this also relates to the solet, which was used in the altar as well, which is like, you know, refined flour. So it's also symbolically, it's also hinting at these are things that are worthy of the temple, right? So we want to make sure that we're that's what we're maintaining ultimately. And this would be like the highest student caliber, right? Someone that knows how to take all the information and distill it into the most refined, the best quality type of thing. We mentioned this in the past about, I think we spoke about him in the past, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, how he was the most brilliant. No, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he was alive during the Second Temple, and he was very into discussing things from the Second Temple as well, like based on his memory that he would tell people about. However, he was known for giving very few decrees, but all of them were quality. So much so that anytime there's a disagreement with him, almost always we go according to him, because the attitude was that like when he would speak and when he would discern, it's almost always giving you like the most refined version of it. And that's why usually we go according to him, because that was his mode of operation, in that sense, that he would really take those things and refine them. And of course, then we're being told this is the student. This is the student that does all this work. You could also argue that all these students are one person through different development stages, right? He knows nothing. He just comes in and goes out. He gets a little better. He understands some things, but he's not understanding the most important things. Then he's a sponge. He's understanding everything, but he can't discern. And eventually he could discern and just give us the most refined detail from it. So ideally, it goes from the guy that's learning, the guy that's eventually walking to the study hall, the guy that's eventually sitting in the study hall, and the guy that eventually sits and discerns and ultimately refines the Torah he's learning.
Right. And just to show how the challenge is never over. There's always room to improve. The Midrash talks about the negative sense of the napa, about the sieve, and it talks about how in the negative sense, this student applies a double standard to what he hears from his fellow. He extracts whatever is faulty in his fellow's argument and uses it to embarrass his fellow. Yet he retains the truths uttered by his fellow and claims them as his own. So in a way,
master manipulator.
That's a manipulator. That's the smart aleck, or this is the intellectual that uses his skills in discernment, but not for the sake of learning and refining himself to be a better person and improving his surroundings, but in order to elevate his own reputation and status.
Ego play.
Ego play.
I like that. Number 16. Tet
Um,
Zain. Okay. Just so people recognize, if you could scroll back, I don't know if everyone recognizes this. So you could see in English it's 16, but in Hebrew, if up until now we did it, go back another one if you don't mind. So we had the exact translation over here, which was Yud Daled. Yud is 10, which is 1, and Daled is 4, which is 14. However, the next letters, if I wrote them down, would be Yud Hey, which is part of the Tetragrammaton, or 16 is Yud Vav, which is also part of the Tetragrammaton. And that's why we don't write those numbers down. We just write Tet Vav and Tet Zayin.
Which always confused me when I was younger until I realized what was happening.
We take it that seriously. Okay. כל אהבה שהיא תלויה בדבר, בטל דבר, בטלה אהבה, ושאינה תלויה בדבר, אינה בטלה לעולם. איזו היא אהבה שתלויה בדבר? זו אהבת אמנון ותמר. ושאינה תלויה בדבר, זו אהבת דוד ויונתן. Any love that is dependent on something, when the thing ceases, the love ceases. The love also ceases. But a love that is not dependent on anything never ceases. What is an example of a love that is dependent on something? The love of Amnon and Tamar. And one that is not dependent on anything, the love of David and Jonathan. Famous controversial Jonathan. No, we don't think he was gay, and we won't get into that. Because it's always thrown out there. They loved each other. All right, so if just from a general point of view, up and now we were talking about 10, 7, 4 different aspects, right? And now we ended that. Now, what we could notice over here is, even though we were talking about different levels of people, ultimately, different levels show differences, right? Which is not ideal, because ultimately, we want to come back to unity, right? We want to come back to the one. And now, when we're speaking love, we're talking about which is unity, right? Love ultimately is there to represent unity. So we went from all these divisions right now into now discussing love, and then we have to ask, what's the nature of this true love, right? Yeah. So that's what we're going to try to explore over here. And just in general, I'm sure you've heard me maybe you haven't. I use the example of why the world is deteriorating, because we have in the dictionary the word literally also means figuratively today. And that's just like makes me bananas. But we use the word.
What dictionary does it say then? Or
what?
Where does it say that?
In the dictionary.
That's funny.
I'm saying it's funny is one way. It's also just sad.
Yeah.
But it's not so crazy if you have what is a woman, and everyone could express or define themselves the way you are. It's just an indication how society starts unraveling once these terms mean nothing. But specifically about love, right? People love eating, people love sleeping, people love the show, right? So love is cheap, so to speak, the way it's being used, right? The overuse of the word love, like I love this was amazing. And like in Hebrew, ahava, love is connection. It's a soulful bond with like another. It could be like an individual, it could be in a community, but it's there to show unity. And it's not there to just show like I was one with my Netflix show, or I was one with my soup. Right? Like those, we're not necessarily using the right words. Now I understand we're going to continue using those words, but there's something very important about honestly trying to understand and what is this love? What are we trying to do? Right? So we really have to ask ourselves that, and the Mishnah is telling us over, people claim that they love things all the time. What is this love that they're actually talking about? So the love that is what is the word that's dependent on something, right? So what is this something that is dependent of, and can it last, right? So it's transient love, right? And it ends up disappearing. Like, just like it's very clear the way they're saying this over here to us, that once this thing disappears, it's gone. So the material things, beauty, wealth, right? I could love these things all the time, but ultimately they're gone. There's a very a picture's worth 1,000 words. There's a picture of Shadol Adelson, very, very famous, rich philanthropist, rabid Zionist, as Jacob would say, and he's done a tremendous amount of donations to Israel. He passed away during COVID, and like the heat of like COVID restrictions, the world's ending COVID, and only his wife could come to his funeral. So at the end of the day, you see this billionaire. It's just his wife in like some little jacket. He's buried with nothing ultimately. And there's a sense where all those other things have disappeared, right? I'm not saying that their love between them wasn't real, just that all these things ultimately disappeared, right? And there's in a certain sense, even like a physical love, right, is still potentially temporary, right? Because I could love physical things. I could love how physically this feels for me right now. So there's a physical enjoyment, but that too eventually could end. And you could look over here that maybe the mission is trying to give us a division of, let's say, a physical love and an intellectual love. And there's a sense that the physical thing eventually disappears. Intellectual love is something that it could withstand time, right? It doesn't decay, and it could be enduring forever, assuming like I'm not in love with an idea, rather that I'm in love with like a concept over here that is true.
So is the dichotomy here physical and intellectual?
No, it's not only. I'm just saying that you could also look at it that way, that there's something like, the physical stuff end up disappearing. Something that is more conceptual potentially could last much longer. Assuming the concept is not like I have an idea and it disappears, but more about, let's say, my love for truth, for example, is something that in theory should be eternal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so let me
Sure
respond to that. So I'm thinking, if you have a love for the safety or the safety of your family, right? I can remember in one context I was was talking about this example, but it's still in my mind that's still it's still conditional. So let's say I'll give you the whole example.
Is wisdom conditional though? Are good deeds conditional?
Well, I think in a sense, I mean, like you mean like a reward and they're like a reward or like something that you need to do. I mean, at a certain level.
Well, loving charity, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So loving the concept of charity, but assuming the Torah is eternal and its commandment, right, charity is eternal, the loving of the concept of charity, right, would be something that's like more like there's giving charity, which is one thing, but loving that concept in theory would be eternal.
Right. But so the rabbi in my congregation also asked the question, so I don't know if it appears anywhere else, but is it better to give charity out of the goodness of your heart, the love of charity? Or is it better to give charity because you have to give charity? You have to give a certain amount of money.
We spoke about this a few weeks ago, which is...
So we also spoke about that.
Okay. I was saying, of course, you should give charity. Like we said, the example was everyone anyways has to give charity, right?
Right.
We want to focus on why you're giving. What's the quality of that charity? Of course, it has to do with where your heart is. And that would be a perfect example, which is it's more about if your heart's in it, right? So it's less about the actual act, right? Which could... the number could be higher, lower. It could be 10 times a day, 1 time a day. It's more about the intention.
Yeah. So another example is like, let's say I want to explore Judaism, right? And I don't have a connection to, I'm a person that doesn't really have a connection to whatever it is that we would call God. I don't feel a connection or relationship to that entity. But it's my history, and I want to see if I can connect to that history. So I'm thinking I want to visit a community center, like a synagogue, and go there and like spend time with people. And that is, that's I have a love for the concept of connecting, of connecting with other people or connecting with history.
Mhm.
But what happens when I go to to the community center and it turns out that something terrible happens and we need a lot of security, and maybe I'm going there with kids, and every time I go there, there's like two police cars and there's other security officers, and the kids are getting a little. They're asking why are there so many security? Why do we need so much security? And it doesn't feel as safe to go there. And maybe I'm not meeting people that I like at this congregation, so it's not. I'm not connecting with it. That's to me. That's still me. Even though it's a love of I want to connect to the community, it's still conditional on me getting something out of it.
You just said the key word. It's conditioned on you. So we'll transition for a second because this highlights it about the love of Amnon and Tamar, right? So we say, what is this love that is not dependent on things, right? Sorry, that is dependent on things, which is the love of Amnon and Tamar. So in Amnon and Tamar, in the book of Samuel, right, we have the half siblings, and he's really into his half sister. It's less a question of like religiously, they're not even sharing the same dad. So but either way, he's really into her. And he's so into her that I love her, that he fakes his own sickness so she's sent to him to tend him. And once he finally gets her, right, this desired thing that he wanted, that he loves, right, eventually it turns into this intense hate. He's no longer interested anywhere. He already got her, and he was done with her. Crescendoing with Avshalom, his step brother, killing him, right? And this is supposed to show that really Amnon's supposed love, or the guy you were talking about right now, the guy going to the synagogue, his supposed love for community was actually self-love, right? It was actually focused on like what this makes me feel, her beauty, this thing I want to get right now. Once my desire is fulfilled, right? Or once my desire is no longer fulfilled exactly the way I wanted, the love vanishes. I can't really go anymore. It's not there. However, that's not the expectation God wants from us ultimately, right? So I don't need superficial reasons because then they're not going to be lasting. But if someone says he loves fish, right? If he loves fish, he wouldn't eat them because he loves the fish. He means he loves himself when he enjoys eating fish. So that's something very different. But we say I love fish because I'm just thinking about myself and I'm going to use that term, but that's not actually what I really mean. So this person might love community up until the point where it bumps up against the things he likes to do. And in reality, I'm still very much thinking about myself and not thinking about trying to unite with the thing that I love. Even if it's uncomfortable in theory, I'm still being one with this thing.
Yeah.
Which brings us to, so then we say, okay, so what is this love that is not dependent on things, right? This is the love of David and Jonathan, right? So first off, just in context, the time to experience real love, to try to get real unity, is the times of Messiah, right? When the wolf lives together with the lamb, where you could actually create this kind of unity. And this was attempted, and we see this kind of love percolating during the time of David, just because he is the king. We have Jerusalem. We have a nation at that point. So this is, in theory, you have a lot of the components of the Messianic time.
Yeah.
As far as like a promise was kept. David comes, rules, becomes in charge, unifies the people. So like you're talking about a time where potentially love, real, true love, could be experienced or tried out, right? And again, even with a love of a woman and a man, because you could have said like, why don't we give the example over here of Abraham and Sarah, right? Like, why is that not the love we use? And not that this is bad, but there's still a sexual desire over there, and it's based on something else. Obviously, in that kind of love, in that kind of setting, the sexual desire is elevated and sanctified, and that's beautiful. But nevertheless, there are those desires that I still have to deal with, which ultimately they create for unification. I have a child, all those things are true, but I'm still going after something that I then have to sanctify. But with the story of David and Jonathan, right? So it's a very rare phenomenon that sort of like defies logic, right? There's like a bond, which is, even though Jonathan is his father's heir, and there's a tension with David, and even though his father doesn't like David, nevertheless, right? So there's many reasons not to be into this person. Nevertheless, there is this love. They both love each other very much and understand. They see this kindred spirit between themselves. So it's like a pure, unconditional soul connection. so to speak. And David and Jonathan obviously supports David all the way. He helps him run away from his dad. Obviously, it ends badly because Jonathan dies. But there's a real sense of love over there. And this would be true towards our love for God, right? There's no condition that we need. He doesn't need to give us money. He doesn't need to give us honor. It's unconditional. And there's being in that space of enjoying love from God. It's there's genuine happiness over there. And it's not, I'm not obligated to love you. You're not making me love you, even though we have those commandments. Regardless, we're asking to do so voluntarily, right? We're asking to move towards God. This is also true about individuals, but we're trying to create in all circumstances, in sickness and in health, right? In all those elements, when we're talking to our wife, in a secular setting, but the point still stands, where we're saying it's not there's no conditions.
Yeah. So it seems like we're making a separation here between, when we say conditional, there's something with that seems to be connected with the self, as opposed to the unconditional, where it's the love is directed and its source is in something that is outside of you.
Even if I'm uncomfortable.
Even
if I just lost a loved one, right? I say, "Blessed be he, the judge of truth," right? That's not a love claim, but it's an acceptance of the relationship. It's an acceptance of, like, it doesn't matter if it's inconvenient for me and I want to be angry right now. Mm-hmm. The attitude is, even if you are angry, and it doesn't say you can't be angry, regardless, you humble yourself and you recognize that the devotion and the affection I have for you, God, is unwavering. So I will still, what just happened is still within the context of your world and the fact that you are the judge of truth. So it's not, it's a love that is not based on anything, as far as it's not conditional, as in, it doesn't mean that even if you took the loved ones away from me, that love for you is still there regardless.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm trying to get it like lower it a little bit to use other examples of, let's say, like a husband and a wife.
I pick up my son from kindergarten even though it's raining, right? Mm-hmm. It's very annoying, but it's not like, no, I'm not going to commit to this anymore. Like, that is the commitment. Or, we say it's unconditional love for a child. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not totally true. If your son's a psychopath and tries to kill you, at some point you'll be like, well, okay. But the attitude is, there's a tremendous amount of runway that we give our kids. And it's just because, like, it doesn't matter if they speak back to us. There's like a love that's constantly protecting them and covering them. And that's why, like, even if they're quote unquote more annoying or all this other stuff. Now you could say, well, it's a selfish love. Like, that's your DNA and you love him because you made him. Sure. Like, psychologically, there's things undergirding those decisions that we might not be able to fully control. But having said that, generally speaking, the attitude is, even if our kid falls and even if he fails us, that doesn't mean we stop loving him.
And can you reach unconditional love through conditional love? Can you love something conditionally and then realize something bigger?
Well, in theory, yeah, you could come and say, okay, so we'll use just the dating world. I want to date, and she needs to look like a supermodel. That's my condition. Okay, great. We love each other. Then we get married, right? Then 10 years down the line, she gains weight. Am I dumping her now? Or is the fact that the relationship turned into a much more loving, understanding, I see much more into her. It's a lot more about the looks. Yes, well, that's nice. There's the her inside that I'm connected to. So people can transition from having something that's conditional, then if it's true, ideally it would overwhelm them in a good sense, where they fully recognize that this is something that they fully want to be part of and embody with and in a relationship with. So even the love for God, right? It starts with, I'm going to the study hall, and even if I don't know anything, I'm still going. And first of all, that would be unconditional, because even if I don't know anything, I'm still going. But
for that you need like an amount of faith, right? Bitachon, trust, faith, and trust, right? So you were saying maybe it's just going to the study hall maybe you're just trying to learn something. You think it's going to be useful. You think it's intellectually stimulating, right? This is the lashma lo lishma that we.
Correct, exactly. So like the idea is like you're starting someplace, and as then it could turn into something that's like a lot more real.
Yeah.
And we say na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do and we hear, as the Israelites told God, which is like we'll partake in this embodied practice. Then later on we'll hear the reasoning, which is like there wasn't like the idea was I'm going to do it.
Yep.
All right. What time is it right now? 1:05. Okay, so.